Again, good morning. Thank you very much for joining us today at the forum. I have to, as usual, remind you, this is your time to ask questions from members of sponsored programs, accounting, or other units of Office of Research, including human subjects, intellectual property, tech transfer office, and so on and so forth. So again, your time, but before that, as usual, we're going to have some updates. I don't have any major announcement myself to share with you. So let's go to updates from the proposal team, please. Kelly?
Good morning, everyone. I have several announcements for you. So I've got a presentation. Just give me one moment to share my screen. Okay, so good morning. I'd like to present on a handful of topics specific to the proposals team this morning. As we discussed last week, I want to start out with, or I'm sorry, last month. I want to start out with discussing the Grants.gov migration that's going to be taking place in approximately a month. As a reminder, Grants.gov will be migrated to the cloud, which means that it will be unavailable for a week between Friday, September 23rd and Thursday, September 29th. Last month, we didn't have a whole lot of information about what that means for deadlines that fell within that time period, but we had assumed that they would be extended. Last week, we got confirmation that NIH due dates that fall between Thursday the 22nd, so one day before the closure, and Friday, September 30th, will move to October 3rd, which is a Monday. We expect that almost every proposal that the university will be submitting will fall within, this extension of October 3rd. But there are a few caveats and considerations we want to make you aware of just in case. There is a website, and we will be posting the website in the chat, so you'll have this information at your fingertips going forward over the course of the next month or so. But the first consideration is that for the continuous submission for the AIDS due date that was listed as Saturday, October 1st will remain Saturday, October 1st. However, because that is a Saturday due date, it automatically moves forward to October 3rd, just like any other federal deadline due to the weekend. And additionally, the 2-week window of consideration associated with their late application policy will be calculated from the original due date. So that means it will be calculated from the date of the closure if that due date fell within the 1-week closure period for grants.gov. Additionally, the 2-day application viewing window and ERA Commons will continue to function as it normally does for successfully submitted applications through grants.gov. If a correction is needed within that viewing window while grants.gov is unavailable, please reject your application and ERA Commons to prevent it from moving forward to NIH for processing, and then submit your correction prior to the October 3rd due date. So on October 3rd, that would be the final date. And if your viewing window has passed, you can officially withdraw your application and submit a changed or corrected application prior to October 3rd. So NIH has issued an official notice for due date changes for impacting opportunities. They did not go through and update every single individual funding opportunity. So you need to be aware that you're not going to see any kind of amendment to the original funding opportunity. If you have any questions or experience issues, please contact the ERA service desk for assistance. And then, of course, if you're dealing with an experience that is not covered by the notice, their standard dealing with system issues policy applies. Again, I want to reiterate that I don't think most of these caveats and considerations will affect the university. I think most of them will fall within that October 3rd deadline, but we wanted to make sure you had all of the information that we have received to date about this migration. Does anybody have any questions specific to this at this time?
There were a couple of comments asking for the presentation to be shared, and I just answered there that we will send it out later today. Okay. Using the list there.
Perfect. Thank you, Aman. Okay, so that is all the information we have right now. If we receive anything more, we will be sure to share that with you, probably through our listserv, since our next forum will be occurring so close to the closure. I want to pivot a little bit this morning and turn to another submission system. This is Fastlane. As you may know, NIH is in the process of transitioning all of their application submissions to research.gov. They've already started the transition with some of the programs. There were a handful that happened in June. As you may remember, Fastlane is going to be completely eliminated as a submission option beginning in January of 2023. As I mentioned, some have already transitioned. One that we know of is NSF's Social, Behavioral, and Economic Sciences Directorate. They are no longer accepting through Fastlane. Many others will stop accepting them throughout the course of the fall. NSF has provided us with a table of actual transition dates specific to research.gov. That happened earlier in August. I provided the link here and we'll put it in the chat as well. So you can go ahead and take a look to see when the programs will be moving over. But be sure to watch the funding announcements too for specific information about submission requirements too. That will be really useful as you move forward. Okay, now yet another topic to talk about compliance. And I want to emphasize before I go too deep into this that what I'm talking about is specific to the proposal stage. There are other requirements at the award stage. The reason we do things a little bit differently at the proposal stage is to eliminate as much unnecessary administrative burden as possible for everyone involved in the process. So at the proposal stage, we're only requiring Form 800s if it's required at the proposal stage by sponsor policy. So that means we need Form 800s on file prior to submission for all NSF proposals, any proposals funded by non-PHS federal sponsors if human subjects are involved, and all the UCOP programs. It's really important that those are in place prior to submission to adhere with federal guidelines. So we highly recommend that as soon as you're routing your IPF to sponsor programs, you begin working on the Form 800s so that they can be finalized prior to the submission deadline. We know many of you are already doing that, and we thank you for having all the key project personnel complete that form as soon as the proposal process begins. And then I have one gentle reminder. I know many seasoned research administrators are aware of our 5 business day policy for a full review. But I wanted to issue this reminder because we have been seeing an uptick in last minute proposal requests. So, excuse me, we see a lot of them coming in the afternoon before they're due. We see many have been coming in the day that they're due. So as a gentle nudge, please remind your PIs that we need adequate time to do a thorough review on these proposals so that we can submit the best possible proposals as possible for funding consideration. With that, I want to say thank you, but I also want to circle back to see if there are any questions about anything I've covered this morning or anything maybe I haven't covered that you have questions about. Okay, I'm not seeing anything, but I'll continue to watch the chat throughout the rest of the forum. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Kelly. Regarding the last item that Kelly mentioned, the proper review period of the proposals, as she said, no, we know everybody's busy and we are receiving more and more of last-minute proposals. They have already caused lots of problems, and let me tell you why. We have several awards right now that the sponsor is saying that, well, you accepted all these terms and conditions at the proposal, why are you objecting to them now? And the answer is that we didn't have time to even review. So from now on, actually, I mean, we have started in the cover letter that we issue for late proposals. Very clearly, we say that we did not have time to review anything. We are sending it out to meet the deadline, but we have no idea. Well, basically, I mean, we don't say it in these rooms, but we don't know what's in the conference proposal that might be inconsistent with university policy. I am in the middle of one of the big ones right now. That's the argument, that they say you have accepted these things. There are publication restrictions. There are so many different things in the call for proposal that it might not work. This award might not work. It's a big award. And the federal government, this is from feds. And again, they are saying that it wasn't put in the call. How come you didn't object to that? It turned out that the proposal was in our office less than half a day, basically. And for your information, the position of university, especially on the publication restrictions, is that the order from Office of the President has always been that we have to turn the award on. So, I mean, your PIs are risking losing those awards. We need your help and to explain to them that's what's happening right now. Okay, let's see. How about if we go to updates from the award side? Grace, please.
Good morning, everybody. So I also have a presentation from the award side, but I also have somebody to introduce to the research admin community here. Gail Sherwood joins us as the team lead for Team B, who will be mainly serving the School of Medicine, School of Nursing. So Gail, if you want to say hi to everybody, just so.
Sure. Hi, everybody. It's nice to meet you through Zoom and looking forward to working with everyone.
Yeah. We're very excited to have Gail. Gail joins us from Fresno State. All right, so I am also going to share my screen here. Okay, here are a few word announcements. First of all, just so everybody knows, UCOP released the research data policy, and this isn't just for sponsored programs, this just has to do with your PIs as they do research. And there is a link to it. It was issued on August 9th, and it has an effective date of July 15th, 2022. And the intent of the policy is to clarify the ownership of and responsibility for research data generated during the course of university research. It's a very broad statement, so you'll want to know what's in that policy. And the policy also discusses, active data management and sharing practices. And it provides guidance with respect to procedures when a university researcher leaves the university. So I think everybody should read that because we're all going to come across that at some point. So the policy applies to all research data generated or collected during the course of university research. All, okay. And I put the link in there. And the policy is there, and there's also extensive FAQs about the policy. So they really did put a lot of effort into the research data policy, and those of us involved in research administration should be familiar with it. Another reminder is that interim RPPRs have to be submitted to NIH. And these interim RPPRs are required to be submitted even if a competitive renewal application is submitted. So if the renewal application is funded, then the interim RPPR would be accepted as the annual RPPR. And if the renewal application is not funded, then the interim RPPR would be accepted as the final RPPR. Okay, but the policy was released under that policy number, and additional guidance can be found there. So please do remember that interim RPPRs have to be submitted even if competitive renewals are pending. Okay, and then one final reminder, September 30th is the end of the federal fiscal year. I know a lot of us are just recovering from the end of the state fiscal year in June, but September is coming up very soon, and please let SPO know as soon as possible if we have to ask for prior approval on something. Usually this would be no cost extensions or carry forward requests. But please, before you contact us, please review the federal award terms and determine whether the prior approval request is necessary. A lot of federal awards have automatic carry forward. So, okay, we don't want to ask for something we don't need to ask. But just a reminder to review those federal awards and get those requests early into us. Okay, that's all I have. Are there any questions for awards? Okay, thanks everyone.
Thank you. A little bit more about the data ownership and so on and so forth. It's, as Grace said, it's a very important policy. And you really, I mean, it's not that long. It's like 6-7 pages or something. But there is a lot packed in there. To give you a little bit of history, this policy is based on one sentence in Reg 4, which is a part of the Constitution of the University. And Reg 4, most of you might know that Reg 4 is also in APM 020. It's academic personnel manual 020. So the sentence says basically, I mean, no, again, short sentence. It says notebooks and other original records of research are the property of university. That's all it says. And Reg 4, again, is the constitution of university. You know, in the constitutions, usually they don't elaborate on things. It is from 1958. That's the sentence. University has always relied on that one sentence saying that university is owner of the data. And again, it's very important to understand the distinction between university and the research. It's the university who owns the data. So starting from there, again, it says notebooks. In 1958, there were only notebooks. There were all the computer programs and databases and so on and so forth. So lots of things have evolved since then. But still, that sentence is powerful enough to say notebooks and all other original records belong to university. So the ones who wrote that were probably, legal minds, and they knew how to think about these things, think about the constitution of the country, where it is written, and each sentence, regarding each sentence, you can write books. So same here. So in the last 5 years or so, with lots of other things happening, more and more the university decided that we really have to have a policy that elaborates on that one sentence, and that's what we have now. So it goes through all of the details of, and again, it took a long time to finish it. Details of how, if somebody leaves from university, what would happen? They are not allowed to take notebooks with them. It depends on if the person is a PI or somebody in the team. The PI is allowed to take copies. Individuals in the team might be allowed to take copies with the permission of the PI. So there's a lot. I'm just whetting your appetite to go back and read it. It would take probably 10, 15 minutes to read it fast, but there is a lot in there to unpack. Okay. So I see that. Thank you very much, Perry, and you have been putting links in there in the chat. The two presentations from Kelly and Grace, I would pack them in PDFs and send them to you sometime later today. So any questions about anything that we have been discussing or anything else? Let's see, I don't see anything in the chat that I have to answer. There has to be some questions that might come up. So should we go to waiting rooms and read the policy and come back and discuss it?
Hey, Ahmad, actually, I do have a question for you.
Okay, here is Kelly. Go ahead.
So can you advise on the current timeframes for review of SPO awards? I had 2 recent awards that took about 2 weeks to be reviewed.
Well, it depends on what type of award it is. 2 weeks. I mean, you were here in sponsored programs. You know that it depends if it is something very simple that can be turned around, or if it is complex, and also what other awards you.
Yeah, so I had, they were 2 NIH awards, and so I was expecting to get a fairly quick turnaround time on them, and then when I asked about it, I didn't get a response. So I was
saying you didn't get the response as opposed to review was not.
No, so the review took 2 weeks, but then I asked if there was some delay, and just so that I could be aware of for future awards coming in, and I didn't receive a response. So
I see. So the response, I mean, we have to have obviously the teams answer that question regarding response, but still I am a little bit puzzled regarding the review of a federal award that you're saying 2 weeks was too long. I mean, the fact that maybe just the review might take, I don't know, 5 hours, 1 day or whatever. Also, it depends on what awards are ahead of that award. So everybody would be saying the same thing. And again, you were in this office, you know that you had to prioritize your work, and I have to assume that has happened here, but the part that you are saying that you didn't get a response, that's what we have to work on.
Okay, Kelly, I mean, you can reach out to me. Yeah, I don't know exactly which project, but We can discuss. I mean, we've been short-staffed for a bit and people have been out on vacation, but I mean, I agree you should get a response, so we can discuss.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Any other comments, questions, sharing information with the rest of us? Well, I guess there's nothing else. I don't know if you have our friends from Human Subjects or Tech Transfer online, but I don't see them. Well, it's before 9 still. It's just half an hour. So if there's nothing else, we know we can take the rest of the time and do the rest of our work.
No updates from CGA?
Oh, CJ, wait a minute. Sorry, James, you are hiding. I completely forgot
I'm
about
not
you.
hiding. I'm right here.
So why didn't you say something? You
Well,
just,
here's the thing. I don't have a presentation like Kelly and Grace, so I'm a little reluctant to get involved. I don't have a.
do you want to
really
talk about
slick-
fiscal close or anything like that?
The reason I don't have a presentation is I really don't have any updates from CGA, although
I
Grace
see.
mentioning, you know, the federal fiscal year ending, that did bring to mind, you know, we will typically have a few lapsing funds situations, which in those cases, hopefully, you know, the federal agency will let us. It's not always transparent to us, and therefore it's not going to be transparent to anybody whether or not we have lapsing funds involved in any of these projects coming up on the fiscal year end. But if we do get those notices, we will just reach out to the department, because usually what we need to do is get some real quick projections together. So if you do see some kind of request come from one of our fund managers, please do try to give that a little bit of priority. Once those funds lapse, they really are gone. There is no way to bring them back. It's a really small, you know, amount of awards or things that this really applies to. So everybody, don't worry about it unless you see a message from somebody, and it's usually getting, you know, into September before we know where that might be an issue. Chatty chat. So that's what I have. Any questions for me?
There's a question here. It says, would it be possible to set up a call for topics that people are interested in so people can make presentations on those topics? I think that Perry has, maybe Perry, you want to talk about the office hours? Maybe this is relevant to that.
Yeah, perhaps. The office hours are take place on the first and third Thursday of each month, and they are via Zoom, and they're from 10 to 11, and you can just drop in, and our experts from the Sponsor Programs Office are available to answer any questions you have about proposals you're working on, or the process to for the university to accept awards and sub-awards. So we recommend that you join us, and I'll put a link in the chat in a moment where you can get the Zoom link to access the those office hours.
Okay. Hopefully that answers the question. And I see that we have a satisfied customer in the chat there. Thank you. Okay, anything else? Well, give it 30 seconds to, oh, go ahead, Lori, go ahead.
Thank you. I don't actually have a question. I would just like to throw a thank you out to Chris with proposals, and Christine and everybody over there. You guys are extremely helpful, and we really appreciate everything you guys do. You guys are really responsive and answer our questions and actually read the questions. So, you know, we appreciate that. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Lori. Let's see. Anybody else wants to share anything? Well, 3 minutes before 9, I think we are going to stop now since there's nothing else. Thank you very much. Stay on the top of the deadline for Grants.gov moving, and please read the data policy manual. Data policy. And if there are questions, feel free to, I would be happy to answer questions. Send me an email or something and we go from there. Thank you. See you next month. Bye-bye.